In this lecture, we are going to discuss about diode circuits, and we will be going to discuss about PN junction diode, its IV characteristics, breakdown mechanisms, and the working principle of Zener diode. Electronics consist of two words, electron plus mechanics. So basically electronics means the study of behavior of an electron under the different conditions of applied external field. So electronics has two major fields. One is the analog electronics and the another is the digital electronics. Analog electronics deals with the continuously time varying signals, whereas the digital electronics deals with the binary signals where we have only two values, either 0 or 1. We are aware about the three types of materials. The one is the insulator, second is the semiconductor, and the third is metal. So how these three materials are differentiated? They are differentiated based on the energy gap between the valence band and the conduction band. If we talk about insulator, in the case of insulator, they have very large energy gap. Usually it is greater than 5 electron volt. If you talk about semiconductor, we have the moderate energy gap, that is near about 1 electron volt. And if we talk about metal, there is no energy gap. Usually the valence band and conduction band, they overlap each other. The example of insulator are glass, rubber, and the cotton. The example of semiconductor are germanium, silicon, and the gallium arsenide, where the energy gap between the valence band and the conduction band in case of germanium is 0.67 electron volt. For silicon, this is 1.12 electron volt, and for gallium arsenide, this is 1.43 electron volt. The example of metal are aluminium, silver, and the copper. So in electronics, all the devices, they usually consist of the semiconductor material. So in the semiconductor material, usually the devices consist of either silicon or germanium. Now this is a very important question, that the silicon is preferred over germanium. Why? So there are many reasons. Some of few we are going to discuss here. The one point is silicon is easily found in abundance and much cheaper as compared to germanium. Second point is silicon has the large band gap, hence it has the high temperature withstanding capability. And third is silicon has the less reverse leakage current as compared to germanium. So because of these 3 points, silicon is preferred over the germanium. So basically we have two types of semiconductor material. One is the intrinsic semiconductor and the another is the extrinsic semiconductor. Intrinsic means the pure semiconductor where there is no impurity. That is the usual case of silicon or germanium semiconductor we talk about. And if we talk about the extrinsic semiconductor, means the impurities are deliberately added to make it the extrinsic, or you can say the doped semiconductor. So in silicon or germanium, we can introduce two type of impurities. The one category that is called as trivalent impurity, and the another category that is called as pentavalent impurity. Trivalent impurity leads to the p-type extrinsic semiconductor, and the pentavalent impurity leads to the n-type extrinsic semiconductor. So in which ratio the impurities are added to the pure semiconductor? They are usually in the ratio parts per million or parts per billion. That means in the million or billion atoms of pure semiconductor, we introduce only one part of impurity, that can be trivalent or pentavalent. The example of trivalent impurities are that can be boron, aluminium, gallium, or indium. And the example of pentavalent impurities are that can be phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, or bismuth. So here we have shown the n-type extrinsic semiconductor and the p-type extrinsic semiconductor. So in this case, the silicon that is doped with the phosphorus impurity, and that is the case of pentavalent impurity. And in this case, silicon is doped with the trivalent impurity, and we have taken the case of boron. So in the case of pentavalent impurity, the like phosphorus we have taken, in the outermost shell it has total 5 electrons. So 4 are making the covalent bond with the 4 silicon atom, we can see here, and the fifth electron is free here for the conduction. And in the case of trivalent impurity, it has 3 electrons in the outermost shell. So it can make the covalent bond with the 3 silicon atom, whereas the fourth silicon atom that cannot make the covalent bond with the boron, and here the deficiency of electron is there to make the covalent bond, and that is indicated by hole here. So both type of extrinsic semiconductors we can use for the different type of electronic devices. Like first device we are going to discuss is the p-n junction diode. By the name it is indicating uh, it is the combination of p-type extrinsic semiconductor and the n-type extrinsic semiconductor. So how we define the p-n junction diode? If the donor impurities, that is the pentavalent impurities, and the n-type extrinsic semiconductor, we can say, they are introduced into one side, and the acceptor impurities or the trivalent impurities, that is the p-type extrinsic semiconductor, we introduce into the other side of a single crystal of semiconductor. Then we have the formation of p-n junction diode. So in the p-n junction diode we have both type of extrinsic semiconductor materials, and this is the symbolic notation of p-n junction diode, that is triangle followed by a vertical line. So this triangle is indicating the positive terminal, that is p type, and that is called as the anode, and the vertical line is indicating the n type extrinsic semiconductor material, and that is representing the cathode. And this is the conventional current flow. Usually in the diode, the current flows from P to N, that is in the direction of arrow. That is indicating it has the current flow during the forward biasing of PN junction diode. So this is the PN junction diode shown with the different type of charge carriers. Like if we talk about P type, what are the different type of charge carriers? We have shown here some of the ions, that is the negative ions. So negative ions are called as the acceptor ions. So in the p-type extrinsic semiconductor, we have negative or the acceptor ions because of the trivalent impurity, and every negative ion is associated with one hole here. So this is the representation of hole. And we can see here the minority charge carriers are also there. These are represented as electrons. So this is the electronic representation, electron representation here. So if we talk about the different type of charge carriers in the p-type and the n-type extrinsic semiconductors, so we can say that in every material we have majority charge carriers, we have the minority charge carriers, as well as we have immobile ions. So if we take the case of p-type extrinsic semiconductor, we have the majority charge carriers as holes, the minority charge carriers as electrons, and the negative immobile ions. Every hole we can see here, every hole is associated with one negative immobile ion. Similarly, if we talk about n-type extrinsic semiconductor material, in this case the majority charge carriers are electrons, the minority charge carriers are holes, and every electron is associated with the immobile positive ion. So this is about the PN junction diode, the type of charge carriers present here. So before going for the discussion about the working of PN junction diode, we must be clear about the different type of charge carriers available in the PN junction diode. So holes and electrons, they are the mobile charge carriers, and the negative acceptor ions and the positive donor ions, they are called as the immobile ions. So basically the working of PN junction diode is divided into three cases. The first case we will talk about no bias. Second we will discuss about forward bias, and third we will discuss about reverse bias. So bias means basically we are applying some external DC potential to the PN junction diode. And if we talk about no bias means no external potential is there, no battery is introduced in the circuit. That means the PN junction diode that is under open circuit condition when both the terminals, this terminal of PN junction and this terminal of PN junction, both are open circuited, we can say. So what is going to happen in the open circuited PN junction diode? As we have discussed that in the p-type extrinsic semiconductor, the majority charge carriers are holes and the minority charge carriers are electrons. And we have discussed that in the n-type extrinsic semiconductor material, the majority charge carriers are electrons and the minority charge carriers are holes. So in the p-type, the holes has the high concentration, whereas in the n-type extrinsic semiconductors, holes have the low concentration. Similarly, if we talk about electrons, in the n-type, high concentration of electrons is there, and if we talk about p-type, low concentration of electrons is there. So automatically the diffusion process will initiate. And how we define the diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of charge carriers from the high concentration to low concentration. And why there is movement of charge carriers? Because same type of charge carriers, they repel each other. That is one of the reason we can say, like, the majority of holes are there, so they will repel each other. Here the majority of electrons is there, so they will also repel each other, so they will move in all the directions. But our major concern is about the direction from either P to N or N to P. So we can say that the diffusion process will initiate because of the concentration difference or concentration gradient between the two materials, and the holes will move from P to N type and the electrons will move from N type to P type. So they will move in the opposite direction, and because of this diffusion process, the holes coming from left to right and the electrons coming from right to left, they will start recombining near the junction. So when holes coming from p side to n side and the electrons coming from n side to p side, they start recombining. So obviously the area near the junction, we can see here, that becomes neutral, because after recombining holes and electrons, we can see here only immobile ions are left out. In the p type, immobile negative ions are there near the junction, and in the n type, the immobile positive ions are there near the junction. So this area is becoming neutral. So up to which particular moment the diffusion process will continue? The diffusion process will continue till the equilibrium condition is maintained at the junction. So after maintaining the equilibrium, we can say that the diffusion process that gets stopped. And in this particular area near the junction, a layer is formed containing only immobile ions, and this particular layer is called as the depletion layer. Why this is called as depletion layer? Because this layer gets depleted of free or moving charge carriers. It is left out only with the immobile ions. So when this depletion layer gets established at the junction, so a barrier is created or a barrier is formed at the junction, and that particular barrier is called as the potential barrier. And because of creation of this potential barrier, the further movement of free charge carriers from P to N as well as N to P, that gets stopped. How? Because we can see here the positive immobile ions, they are creating a wall near the junction. So when holes try to move from P to N, the positive immobile ions will repel the holes back to their region. Similarly, if electrons will try to move from N towards P, the negative immobile ions are there near the junction, so they will repel the electrons back to their region. That means the further movement of free charge carriers, that is holes from P to N as well as electrons from N to P, that gets stopped once the equilibrium is maintained at the junction, and that is the point where the depletion layer gets formed and a potential barrier gets created. This potential barrier is uh, this potential barrier, we can say, that is creating some electric field at the junction, and that is material dependent. For silicon, this established electric field is equivalent to 0.7 volt, and in the case of germanium, this established electric field is equal to 0.3 volt. So this voltage that is created at the junction due to establishment of depletion layer and the formation of potential barrier at the junction, this particular voltage is called as the junction voltage, or this is called as the internal voltage, or this is called as the potential voltage, potential barrier voltage specifically, or this is also called as the cut-in voltage or threshold voltage, or sometimes we can say this is also called as the firing voltage, or this is most popularly this is known as the knee voltage. So it is most important to remember the value of knee voltage. For silicon, this value is 0.7 volt, and for germanium this value is 0.3 volt, and this is because of the establishment of depletion layer or potential barrier or electric field produced at the junction. The minus wall is created here in the p-type material near the junction, and the positive wall is created here in the n-type material near the junction. So this minus on the left side and the plus on the n side, this is making the electric field, and this particular voltage is called as the potential barrier voltage. So this is the second case of discussion about the PN junction diode, that is called as the forward biasing. So under what condition a PN junction diode that gets forward biased? When the P type material that is connected to positive terminal of the battery and the N type material that is connected to the negative terminal of battery. And we have put here the variable DC voltage so that we can change the value of voltage, and we can study the behavior of PN junction diode under the different values of applied positive voltages, that is called as the forward bias voltage, that is represented by VF. So let's say when the PN junction diode gets reverse by forward biased, we have seen that like in the case of no bias, a potential barrier is created at the junction, and the immobile negative ions and the immobile positive ions made the depletion layer at the junction. Now when a PN junction diode gets forward biased, obviously this positive terminal of battery, this is repelling the holes present in the p-type region, and the negative terminal of battery that is repelling the electrons present in the n-type region. So holes will start moving from p-type region to n-type region because of this applied external field, and the electrons in the n-type region, they will start moving towards the p-type region because of the negative potential of the battery. So holes will go from left to right, and the electrons will go from right to left. Earlier also this was happening, we have discussed, but that is the case we have discussed, that is called as the diffusion process, and diffusion was a natural phenomena without applying any external electric field that was happening because of the concentration gradient between the two different type of materials. But now the movement of charge carriers, that is holes from p to n, and the electrons from n to p, that is happening because of this external applied electric field. So this particular process, now this movement, this is called as the drift process. So drift is the movement of charge carriers under the application of external applied field. So what is going to happen when this particular field is applied, that is applied in the direction opposite to the potential barrier, we can see here. So establishment of external field opposite to the potential barrier, that will lead to breakdown of potential barrier. So how much voltage we need to apply here to break this potential barrier, that particular voltage is called as the knee voltage. Knee voltage is the minimum amount of voltage that is applied here to break the junction barrier or to break the potential barrier, because till the point 0.3 volt or 0.7 volt, let's say vf voltage is less than 0.3, and we are taking the case of germanium. So as the barrier is there at the junction, so free charge carriers, they are not able to cross the junction because of this barrier. So minimum voltage we need to apply here in the case of germanium is 0.3, and in case of silicon it is 0.7 volt. So once this particular voltage is applied, this barrier will get breakdown, and after that the holes will move from the P to N region, and they will get absorbed by the negative potential of the battery. Similarly, the negative potential is repelling the electrons, and they will enter to P region, and they are attracted by the positive potential of the battery. So in this way, the charge carriers will be able to cross the junction, as well as they are able to complete the closed loop. So when they are able to move through the closed loop, obviously the current starts to flow in the PN junction diode. So this particular voltage, that is the knee voltage, is the minimum amount of voltage after which the potential barrier gets break down, and the significant amount of current starts to flow in the PN junction diode, and the direction of current is from P to N, because electrons will move from N to P, and obviously the direction of current is opposite to the direction of electrons, so current will start to flow from P to N. And if we talk about the reverse biasing, in the reverse biasing we have to reverse the potential. Like in the forward bias, P type is connected to positive potential of the battery, and the N type is connected to negative potential of the battery. So in the case of reverse biasing, the P is connected to the negative potential of the battery, and the N is connected to the positive potential of the battery. So in this case, we have applied the external field that is in the same direction of the potential barrier that was created at the junction in the case of no bias. So if the potential applied is in the same direction of potential barrier, so obviously that will lead to the enhancement of potential barrier. And obviously the negative potential is attracting all the holes present in the p-type region, and the positive potential is attracting all the electrons present in the n-type region. So all the free charge carriers, they are not able to cross the junction. They will move away from junction. The holes will move from p to this outer area, and the electrons in the n type, they will move outside the this particular area, and they will be attracted by the positive potential of the battery, and the holes will be attracted by the negative potential of the battery. So all the majority charge carriers, they will move away from the junction. So instead of going towards the junction, as they are moving away from junction, so they are not able to cross the junction, and they are not able to go through the complete closed path. So obviously if they are not able to complete the closed path, so obviously the current cannot be produced because of the majority charge carriers. But if we talk about the minority charge carriers, like in the p type, the minority charge carriers are electrons, and in the n type, the minority charge carriers are holes. So negative potential of battery, that is repelling the electrons present in the p type, and the positive potential of the battery is repelling the holes present in the n type. So minority charge carriers will go from P to N, and the minority charge carriers in the N, that is holes, will go from N to P. So all the minority charge carriers present in the P type material and the N type material, they are able to cross the junction, and they are able to complete the closed path. So in this way, the current is there due to only the minority charge carriers. So as in any material, the minority charge carriers are limited, so current due to them, that is also limited. And the minority charge carriers are dependent upon temperature. And if we discuss the working of PN junction diode, under the constant temperature, so obviously the minority charge carriers are constant, so that's why the current due to them, that is also constant. So we have very important observation that in the reverse biasing there is no current due to majority charge carriers, there is current only due to minority charge carriers, and that particular current is constant at a particular temperature and limited because that is only due to minority charge carriers. So here we have the VI characteristics of PN junction diode. On the axis, we can see here in the first quadrant, we have the graph between the positive voltage, that is VF, and the positive current produced as IF. So this particular quadrant is representing the forward biasing. And if we see the third quadrant here we have the graph between the minus VR, that is the negative reverse bias voltage, and the minus IR, that is the reverse current. So this particular region, that is showing the reverse biasing. So in the case of forward biasing, I told you that the minimum amount of voltage required to break the potential barrier, this particular voltage is called as knee voltage. So we can see here, until the knee voltage, the current is small, that is almost negligible. And once the knee voltage gets applied, after that the current rises sharply, or there is a significant rise in the current level. And we can notice that for germanium this knee voltage is 0.3 volt, and for silicon this is 0.7 volt. And if we talk about the reverse biasing, in the reverse biasing there is no current due to majority charge carriers, there is current due to only minority charge carriers. That's why this is the limited current shown here, because that is due to minority charge carriers. And we can see here this current is almost constant. Why? Because at a particular temperature, the number of minority charge carriers are constant, because they are minority charge carriers are called as the thermally generated charge carriers. So if we talk about a constant temperature, the minority charge carriers are constant. That's why the current due to them, that is also constant. And we have specified here the reverse saturation current for germanium as well as for silicon. For germanium, this is minus 50 milliampere, and for silicon this is minus 20 milliampere. And once we have the large reverse voltage, in the case of very high reverse voltage, what is going to happen, the junction gets breakdown and the current shoots up and the voltage becomes constant. That particular region is called as the breakdown region. And we have two types of breakdown. The one is called as the Zener breakdown, and the another is called as the avalanche breakdown. Usually in normal PN junction diode, that is never operated in the breakdown region, because in the breakdown region the current shoots up and it becomes so high, and the temperature of device can shoot up, and that can damage the device. So usually the normal PN junction diode is operated under the forward biasing and only reverse biasing till the breakdown point. So breakdown rating is always specified with the PN junction diode, and it must be taken care that the particular diode need to be operated before the breakdown of the junction. And very important observation here is that the forward current lies in the range usually milliamperes, and the reverse current lies in the range microamperes. Here we have the ideal diode characteristics. In the ideal diode characteristics, we can see here during the forward biasing, the full current is there, and in the reverse biasing, no current is there. So we can assume that if we talk about the ideal diode means the knee voltage should be zero. So obviously the graph that coincides with the y-axis, and that is indicating that the diode is acting as a perfect conductor, and the current is becoming infinite, so obviously resistance should be zero. And in the case of reverse biasing, the current is zero, that is indicating the total resistance, we can say that is infinite. So infinite resistance and no current is indicating reverse biasing, and zero resistance and infinite current, that is indicating the forward biasing. So forward biasing is representing the diode as a perfect conductor, and the reverse biasing is showing the diode as a perfect insulator. So what is the application of ideal diode? Ideal diode can be utilized as a switch, as switch has two status conditions, like the switch can be on or switch can be off. So forward bias condition, that is full conduction, that can be utilized to turn the switch on, and the reverse bias condition, that is no conduction, that is utilized to make the switch off. The switch on means full conduction and forward biasing, and switch off means there is no conduction, and that is reverse biasing. So this is indicating the short circuit, and this is indicating the open circuit condition. So this is all about the ideal diode characteristics. So we must be familiar with the diode current equation. The diode current equation is I is equal to I naught into e raised to power v divided by eta Vt minus 1. What is I here? I is called as the diode current. The V is called as the diode voltage. I naught is called as the reverse saturation current or the leakage current that lies in the range microamperes. Eta is constant, and that is taken 1 for germanium and 2 for silicon, and Vt is the volt equivalent of temperature, where the formula for Vt is equal to kT divided by Q. What is K here? K is the Boltzmann constant. The value of Boltzmann constant is 1.38 into 10 raised to power minus 23 joule per Kelvin. What is T here? T is the junction temperature, and usually we talk about the junction temperature is same as the room temperature, and that lies in Kelvin. And for simplified calculation, we are taking the room temperature as 27 degrees Celsius, so that we can have the round off value in terms of Kelvin as 27 plus 273, that is 300 Kelvin. And Q is the electronic charge, that is 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19 coulombs. So when we put here all the values, so Vt is equal to Boltzmann constant, the units are joule per Kelvin, temperature is in Kelvin, so joule per Kelvin into Kelvin, that leads to unit here joules in the numerator, and the denominator we have electronic charge, that is in coulombs. So joule per coulomb, when we calculate, that is equivalent to the voltage. So that's why this particular parameter is called as the volt equivalent of temperature. It seems that the K is some constant value and Q is also constant, so Vt should be equal to T. But when we calculated the units of Vt, they are equal, or we can say same as voltage. That's why this parameter is called as the volt equivalent of temperature. We have two capacitive effects in the PN junction diode. The one is called as the diffusion capacitance, and the second is called as the transition capacitance. The diffusion capacitance, that is also called as the storage capacitance, and that is happening in the case of forward biased PN junction diode. So when a particular PN junction diode is forward biased, so this positive potential of battery, that is repelling the holes present in the p-type region towards the n-type region, and the negative potential of battery, that is repelling the electrons present in the n-type region towards the p-type region. So obviously the majority charge carriers holes present in the p-type region, when they move to the n-type region, they are the minority charge carriers there, and the electrons, they are the majority charge carriers in the n-type region. When they start moving towards the p-type region, they will act as the minority charge carriers in the p-type region. So they start moving in the opposite direction. Obviously when they start moving in the opposite direction, there will be recombination between the electrons and holes. But the diffusion process is time taking process, and that will take some time in the recombination. Till the time the recombination take place, we assume that they start accumulating near the junction. So because of the storage of charge carriers at the junction, storage of, we can say, the minority charge carriers at the junction, or because of the accumulation of charge carriers at the junction, a capacitive behavior that gets produced in the PN junction, and that is called as the diffusion capacitance. And the amount of stored charge varies with the applied potential, as this behavior can be compared with the behavior of capacitor. That's why this particular phenomena is called as the diffusion capacitance. And the diffusion capacitance desirable should be as low as possible, because this is indicating about the switching time of diode. If diffusion capacitance is more, means the switching time that is going from on condition to off condition, or off condition to on condition, that is taking more time. So diffusion capacitance should be as low as possible. Then second phenomena we can see here in the diode, that is called as the transition capacitance. And transition capacitance is seen in the case of reverse biased PN junction diode. When a particular PN junction diode is reverse biased by connecting the P-type material with the negative potential of the battery and the N-type material with the positive potential of the battery, it leads to the formation of depletion layer at the junction. So this depletion layer, because there is no free charge carrier, that is depleted of free charge carrier, that is indicating the region acting as the insulator, or we can say the dielectric material. And the P-type material and the N-type material, they will act as the two parallel metallic plates of the capacitor. So how we define a capacitor? Two parallel metallic plates separated by insulator or the dielectric material. So same phenomena is happening here. The P region and the N region, they are acting as the two parallel plates, and the depletion layer is acting as a dielectric or the insulator material. So this behavior is same as the behavior of capacitor, and this particular capacitance is represented as transition capacitance, or the space charge capacitance, or the depletion capacitance, where the formula for transition capacitance is K divided by Vk plus Vr whole raised to power n, where K is constant, that depends upon the type of construction or the types of material. Vk is called as the knee voltage, and Vr is called as the reverse bias voltage, where the value of n, that is 1 by 2 for the LOA junction and 1 by 3 for the diffuse junction. So this is all about the transition capacitance. And here we can see the transition capacitance and diffusion capacitance behavior with respect to the applied voltage. So diffusion capacitance is seen in the case of forward biased PN junction diode, and the transition capacitance is seen in the case of reverse biased PN junction diode. So in the first quadrant, we see the behavior of this diffusion capacitance with respect to applied forward bias voltage, and we can see here, as the voltage gets increased, the diffusion capacitance that also gets increased. And if we talk about the transition capacitance, as the reverse bias voltage is increased, the transition capacitance that gets decreased. Then next we talk about the Zener diode, and we are going to discuss about its definition, symbol, breakdown mechanism, graph, and its application as a voltage regulator. So how we define a Zener diode and how it is differentiated from ordinary or the normal PN junction diode. We can say that the Zener diode is a special purpose PN junction diode which behaves as a voltage regulator when operated during the reverse biasing. Like I told you that the ordinary PN junction diode is never operated after the breakdown. We usually operate it before the breakdown condition only, because once the normal PN junction diode gets breakdown, so it may be the chances of damage are there, it can be damaged. So the Zener diode is specifically operated during the reverse biasing and specifically in the breakdown region only. And why? Because we have to utilize its benefit as a voltage regulator in the breakdown region during the reverse biasing. So this is the appearance of Zener diode, and this is the symbolic notation of Zener diode. So if we compare the Zener diode with the normal diode, the direction of normal diode current flow in the case of Zener diode, that is same as the ordinary PN junction diode. In the forward biasing, the current usually flows from P to N. This is the P type material and this is the N type material. And if we talk about the reverse direction, that is from N to P, so it also supports the backward current flow, but only past the Zener breakdown voltage. Once the breakdown takes place, after that the current starts to flow from N to P, and this is usually not the case in the ordinary PN junction diode. That's why it gets differentiated from the ordinary PN junction diode. So in the if we talk about the breakdown mechanism, so in the Zener diode only we can have two type of breakdown mechanism. The one is called as the Zener breakdown and the another is called as the avalanche breakdown. So what is the difference between Zener breakdown and the avalanche breakdown? Zener breakdown takes place in the case of heavy doping, whereas the avalanche breakdown takes place in the case of light doping. Let's say first we take the case of heavily doped PN junction diode. If a particular diode is heavily doped, so depletion layer, that is function of two parameters. The depletion layer is dependent upon voltage as well as dependent upon doping. With the help of voltage, we can increase or decrease depletion layer. Like I told you that in the case of no bias, depletion layer gets formed and it can be increased by reverse biasing and it can be decreased by forward biasing. Second is the case of doping. Let's say heavy doping is there, that means that is pointing to the narrow depletion layer, and if light doping is there, that leads to the wider depletion layer. So first we are talking about Zener breakdown. Zener breakdown takes place in the case of heavily doped PN junction diode, where we have the narrow depletion layer, and we are aware about the electric field formula. E is equal to V divided by D, where D here we are taking as the width of the depletion layer. And as the depletion layer is narrow, that means what is the relation between E and D? They are inversely proportional. So if D is less, obviously E will be more. So narrow depletion layer is pointing to the strong electric field. And let's say at the junction the strong electric field is produced, so that leads to the breakdown of covalent bonds. And once the covalent bonds gets breakdown, obviously there is a generation of large number of free charge carriers. And once the large number of free charge carriers are generated, they leads to breakdown of junction and the current shoots up, and that is called as the Zener breakdown. But if we talk about the avalanche breakdown, here we have the light doping, and light doping is indicating the wider depletion layer. So obviously if the value of D is less, E is more, and if we go for vice versa, if D is more, E will be less. And if E is less, that is indicating strong electric field that cannot be produced. So obviously we have to apply the more reverse bias voltage. And once we increase the reverse bias voltage, so charge carriers gets high kinetic energy, they gets escalated, and because of this the avalanche multiplication effect is produced, and that is the cause of breakdown, and that is called as the avalanche breakdown. We have to understand what is the avalanche multiplication effect. So for this we have taken one example. Let's say we are applying the high reverse bias voltage, and because of this the kinetic energy of electron that gets high. Let's say one of the electron we have taken as a case study, that one of the electron that is escalated with the high reverse bias voltage. So electron coming with the high velocity that is striking, let's say, one of the atom. So that is knocking out the electron from this particular atom. So originally we have one escalated electron. Now after the knocking out of electron from this atom, now we have two electrons. One is called as the original electron and the another is called as the knocked out electron. After we have after knocking process, now we have the two electron. So these two electrons will strike further with the two atoms, and they will be produced to four electrons. How? Because one original and one knocked out, here one original and the one knocked out. So now total we have four electrons. Now there is probability that these four electrons will strike with further four atoms, and 4 will be converted to 8, and in the next step 8 will be converted to 16. So this becomes a chain process, and there is the multiplication of electrons from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and so on. So this type of process is called as the avalanche multiplication process. And because of the avalanche multiplication process, the flood of charge carriers will be generated, and that leads to breakdown of junction, and that is called as the avalanche breakdown. So here we have the differences between the Zener breakdown and the avalanche breakdown. Like we have discussed, the Zener breakdown takes place in the case of heavily doped junction, and we have the narrow depletion layer, whereas the avalanche breakdown takes place in the case of lightly doped PN junction, where we have the wider depletion layer. So in the case of Zener breakdown, the strong electric field get produced, and that is the cause of breakdown. Whereas in the case of avalanche breakdown, the electric field is not enough strong. So in the case of Zener breakdown, because a strong electric field is produced, so covalent bonds get easily break down and the large number of free charge carriers are generated. And because of that, the junction breakdown takes place called as the Zener breakdown. But in the case of avalanche breakdown, as the electric field is not strong enough, that means we have to apply the large reverse bias voltage, and because of the large reverse bias voltage, the charge carriers get escalated with the high field, and because of this the avalanche multiplication effect is produced, and that is the cause of breakdown of junction called as the avalanche breakdown. So here in the graph, we can differentiate the Zener breakdown and the avalanche breakdown, because Zener breakdown is the case of heavily doped PN junction diode. So that occurs at the small reverse bias voltage, whereas the avalanche breakdown, because that is the case of light doping, that means we have to apply more reverse bias voltage to get the breakdown. So it is shown at high reverse bias voltage as compared to the Zener breakdown mechanism. So this is the application we have shown here, that we can utilize the Zener diode as a voltage regulator. What is the meaning of regulation? Regulation means the output voltage is maintained constant across the load, irrespective of change in the supply or the change in the load. So if we change the source, then output voltage should not be affected because of that, and if we change the value of load, then also the output voltage should not be affected with respect to change in the load. So that particular voltage regulator means the constant output voltage need to be maintained across the load, irrespective of change in source or irrespective of change in load. So here we have the Zener diode that is acting as a voltage regulator, and this is put in parallel with the load for which we want the protection. So this is the load for which we want the protection, and this is connected parallel with the Zener diode. Let's say we want to protect our load uh, up to the 6 volt, this can work fine, and after 6 volt, this can damage. So we have put here the Zener diode with the breakdown voltage of 6 volt. And here we have put the unregulated input supply. Let's say it goes from 0 to 30 volt. So let's say the input voltage is 0 volt, 1 volt, 2 volt, 3 volt, 4 volt, 5 volt, 6 volt. So this particular Zener diode that is working as a normal PN junction diode. And let's say this particular voltage that gets increased after the 6 volt. So we want to protect the load after 6 volt. So at 6 volt or more than 6 volt, there will be breakdown of this Zener diode, and once the Zener diode gets breakdown, the current shoots up and the voltage becomes constant. So voltage becomes constant across Zener. So in the parallel, the load is connected here. So load is also going to maintain same voltage, because in parallel the voltages are going to remain same. So in this way we can protect the load with the high input voltage. And this resistance is put in series with the Zener diode. Why? Because we need the protection of Zener diode, because after the breakdown takes place the current shoots up, so we have to protect the diode. That's why the resistor is connected in series with the Zener diode. So these are the references we have used. Thank you.